European heritage in other parts of the world. And that is the worst mistake we could ever make. I mean, a lot of times the Austin American will, on December 12th, have a column or two about Our Lady of Guadalupe, but they'll always do it in the context of the culture, the Hispanic culture. And that's important because that's where this arises. But for us to let it just be that and not to take her as our mother too is a huge mistake. So I feel like one of the big betrayals of my life was I was about 35 or 40 years old when I finally learned of this image and what happened and what it means. So let me for a few minutes share that with you. We probably won't have enough time like this to do the Lourdes of Fatima, because I really do want to spend a little time on these handouts I did on the rosary. For those of you who know well the story, I apologize, because this is going to be a very short summary of it, and it's not really fair, but there's no reason to go through the entire chronology. The native Indian culture in Mexico, the Aztec civilization, is established. There has now kind of been, quote, the discovery of the New World, and there is starting to be the introduction of Christianity in the Americas. In 1531, and that's a few years after Coronado had arrived, there's an Indian by the name of Juan Diego who has converted to Catholicism, and he goes to daily Mass in what is now Mexico City and does quite a walk to and from Mass each day. And one day on his way to Mass by himself, he sees on the top of the hill, and this is in December, he sees the silhouette of a figure of a lady who beckons him up the hillside. And the long and short of it, she says a number of beautiful things, but the essence of it is, go tell the bishop that I have requested that a church be built here. So poor Juan Diego goes into Mexico City, has an audience with the bishop after I'm sure he waited a little while, and announces that a lady has appeared to him and has asked that a church be built on that site called Tepeyac. And so the bishop says, ask this lady to give me a sign. So there's a lot of things happen with Juan Diego's uncle who's sick and so forth, but the long and short of it is, Juan Diego eventually sees the lady again on the hillside on December 12th of 1531, and he says to her, the bishop has asked that you give me a sign. And so this image, this vision, invites him on up, and as he comes over the crest of the hill, in the middle of December, there are all of these Castilian Spanish roses and all of these colorful colors. And so Juan Diego thinks, that's going to be a heck of a sign. And so this lady has him hold his tilma, his poncho that he's wearing, made out of cactus fiber. And she asks him to hold it, and so she puts all of these roses in it and then has him pull it up and says, here is the sign that the bishop has requested. So Juan Diego goes into Mexico City holding this up, expecting that when all these beautiful roses drop out in the middle of winter, that'll be the sign. And so he waits and waits and waits, and finally the bishop, with a lot of the bishop's lieutenants, have him come in, and he walks in and he says, here is the sign that you requested from Our Lady. And so he drops his tilma, and immediately everybody falls to the ground kneeling, because imprinted on this cactus tilma is this image. And so the roses really weren't the sign. The sign was this image. Now, I read you earlier from the book of Revelations, chapter 12, a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child. And so to the Christians, this looked to be a fulfillment of this great sign in heaven. But to the Aztec civilization, it was even more powerful, because here was this image that no one could explain how it got there. There was no paint. How did this get on this image? Here was an image of a lady blocking, standing in front of their main god, their sun god, standing on top of their moon god. But she clearly was not a goddess because she is in prayer. You see her hands? She's in prayer. And this image, through the picture, it told them about her versus their gods. The historians say there was a conversion of 10 million Indians in the next 10 years. This is what triggered Christianity in the New World. All right? And we make a huge mistake when we let it just be, something in Mexico City or in South Texas. This needs to be in Amarillo, Texas, where I grew up. And I guarantee you, nobody's ever heard of her up there that, has a Methodist or a Baptist background. Now, here's the phenomenal thing about this image. You can go to Mexico City today and see it. Remember, this was a tilma, a poncho made out of cactus fiber, and the scientists say it'll last 10, maybe 15 years at most. Well, it's lasted now 470 years. It's never deteriorated. Scientists repeatedly, for all generations, have come to try to study what this pigment is and how this got on this image, and no one can explain it. Very interesting. An ophthalmologist said that you can look in her eyes and see a reflection of the bishop and his court on their knees. All right? So, this is unexplainable. I mean, this is a miracle on earth. Frankly, many people say it is the only visual fulfillment of anything in Scripture on earth. Because this is Revelations chapter 12, those first few verses. So when we honor Our Lady of Guadalupe, this is the patroness of the Americas. This is what triggered the conversion of the New World to Christianity. And if you look at the old world now of Europe, where Christianity is dying and dying and dying, you can see the transition to the New World. And this is an image that we all need to honor and respect, and we need to make Our Lady of Guadalupe part of our own sense of spirituality, all right, and not leave it for others. So that's so short-handed, it's not even fair.